You wanna know something crazy? The difference between someone who's broke and a millionaire comes down to only a few habits that you're making today. After uncovering and replacing these outdated financial habits myself, building wealth became surprisingly easy. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the 3 outdated financial habits you're probably doing, reveal how they're quietly damaging your wealth, and the easy and simple adjustments that you could make starting today. So first, let me show you the biggest mistake that people are making with this simple question. What weighs more? A pound of feather or a pound of bricks? At first, you might think a pound of bricks weighs more, but if you really think about it, they're actually the same weight. A pound of feather weighs the same as a pound of bricks. Now, let's apply this same logic to money. Who's saving more here? Person A who earns $50,000 a year and spends it all, or person B who earns $100,000 a year but also spends it all? Similar to the last question with the feather and the bricks, you might assume person B who's making $100,000 is better off, but in this case, person A and B are saving the same amount, which is 0. But here's what's really interesting about this situation. So in many cases, person A who's making $50,000 a year and person B who's making $100,000 are usually the same person, but only a few years apart. And that's because someone who's making one amount of income and saves nothing oftentimes has the habit of spending it all. So even if they double their income, they also double their expenses. And this is what's called lifestyle inflation, where as your income rises over your career, your expenses also rise at the same or faster rate. And let me show you a trick to avoid falling into this trap in the first place. Whenever you get a raise through a promotion or changing your jobs, challenge yourself to keep your lifestyle exactly the same for at least 1 year. By doing this, you practice what's called delayed gratification, and you continue to live the lifestyle that you're already comfortable with. Then take the extra money from your raise and then save or invest most of it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't celebrate your achievements at all, because you absolutely should. But instead of treating yourself to something that will cost more monthly, like a new place or a new car payment, choose a one-time reward like a fancy dinner, a week-long vacation somewhere, or buy something that you've always wanted for a long time. Even if it's expensive, maybe cost a few $100s to even a few $1,000s, it'll be much better off by spending that amount one time than to increase your lifestyle permanently, because once you upgrade your life in an area, it's really hard to scale it back down. So in that way, lifestyle inflation is much easier to prevent than it is to treat it once you're already used to spending all your money. Now, how do you start using the difference that you're saving from your raise so that your money starts working for you? And this goes into the second habit that keeps 95 employees poor. Now, you probably heard the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because when you put all your eggs in one basket, you essentially risk it all. But if anything happens to your basket, then you're suddenly left with nothing. So instead, you have to diversify your eggs. That means leave some eggs in the basket, stash some in your pockets, hide a few under the mattress, but also make sure you give it to your dog as well, because you gotta pay dog taxes, right? But the thing is, most people are putting all their financial risk in one basket by completely relying on a single source of income. In fact, a 2022 Census Bureau report found that 61% of US households rely on just one source of income. And this makes them especially vulnerable during economic downturns, recessions, or unexpected layoffs. So if anything happens to your job, then you start to panic as your entire financial foundation comes crashing down. And no paycheck means no way to cover your bills and no plan B to fall back on. And you have to quickly adjust to a new lifestyle. So that's why building multiple streams of income isn't just a luxury anymore, it's a necessity. But 9 to 5 workers often hesitate to invest their money, start a side hustle, or explore freelance opportunities to expand their income streams. But here's the thing. Millionaires on average have 7 different streams of income, and they diversify their earnings through dividends, rental properties, and businesses. And I'm not saying you need to have 7 streams of income by tomorrow, but it's critical to start exploring additional ways to earn money beyond your regular 9 to 5 job. One of the simplest ways to do that is just to invest in the stock market. And when you invest, you gain a tiny piece of ownership in a company, and as that company earns profit, you receive passive income through quarterly dividends and stock growth. So that means if you buy a Coca-Cola stock, every time someone buys a can of Coke in the world, you get a tiny bit of profit that's made because you are now a part owner of the company. And although it's risky to invest in any business as it could go out of business, you could be fairly confident that Coke will be around tomorrow and into the near future. So let me share a quick example that shows exactly why this matters. Which brings us to another habit that 9 to 5 employees often do that keep them trapped. And it's demonstrated by this book called Why A Students Work for C Students. Now that's strange. isn't it? Like, why would the smartest kids in school often end up working for the kids who barely passed? And it comes down to the understanding of the rules of the game. And at first glance, you might assume that success in school automatically translates into success in life. But here's the truth. Rules for succeeding in school are completely different from the rules for succeeding in business and in life. And think about it like sports. Just because you're great at basketball doesn't automatically mean you'll be great at bowling. Sure, they're both about throwing a ball at a target, but they're just completely different games with different rules. And that's like that for school and life. The rules to succeed in school is pretty straightforward because in most tests, there's usually only one right answer. So you have to memorize the terms or particular process to get to that one answer. And if you follow the rules and listen to the teachers, you'll often succeed in school. But if you end up stepping out of that line, you'll be punished with the lower grade. So A students typically achieve success by playing it safe. They follow instructions, stick close to the established path, and really venture outside of their comfort zone. But life and business aren't really like that because life rewards those who take risks, those who dare to step outside the lines and find creative solutions because life rarely ever has that one right answer. And careers rarely follow a straight and predictable path and things often get messy. So rules are often unclear. So today's school system tends to train students to become rule-following employees rather than entrepreneurs or investors. So how can you start applying this practically? And the best place to begin is to simply figure out what you're truly passionate about and see where your interests and your strengths align. And ask yourself, if money wasn't a factor, what would you spend your time doing? And it could be starting a business, doing a different job aligned to your passion, or even some nonprofit work. Because most 9-to-5 employees I've talked to really describe their current job as their dream career. Like, sure, some people find their job interesting from time to time, but if given the chance, most would choose to do something completely different. In fact, a 2022 report from Global Entrepreneurship Monitor found that nearly 55% of Americans dream of starting their own business, but only about 14% actually take action. Now, taking calculated risks doesn't necessarily mean you need to quit your job right now. Instead, it means starting something small on the side, something that aligns to your passion, your interests, and your strengths while still maintaining the security of your current job. And if you love baking, why not start baking cakes or pastries on the weekends and offering them to friends and neighbors? If you're passionate about soccer, consider volunteering to coach a local youth team in your spare time. And if you're interested in creating an app to help people with their productivity, create something small that helps them stay organized. And the more you practice taking calculated risks, the more comfortable you become and the more opportunities you end up creating for yourself. Because the truth is, if you don't learn how to take smart risks, you'll always end up working for someone who does. But here's the thing, even after you understand these 3 habits that's keeping you poor, there's still one more hidden habit that's quietly draining your bank account, causing you to lose thousands of dollars without you even realizing it. So watch this video next where I'll reveal exactly how banks are secretly stealing your money, and I'll show you the safest and smartest way to grow your wealth instead.